welcome back to DSR, and I'm going to do yet another video on tactics for the Artificers because people have been still coming up with great stuff. But this is the last one, unless people come up with more stuff. But first, I want to thank Charles Haven or Itamar for taking pity on me and helping with adding some audio to the intro for me so that you have something to cue the audio that we're starting here. So, and they go by Itamar or Charles Haven on Discord. So thank you very much for taking pity on me and helping me out there. Appreciate it. All right, let's get into it. First up, we got one for the Armorer, and this is one I've been wanting to try to accomplish for a long time, which is being able to change your armor model, okay, in the middle of a fight. So you've got your arcane armor on, maybe you're set up with Guardian, and you've got heavy armor on, and you want to switch to infiltrator mode because for whatever reason you can't reach the enemies. There's a chasm. You need to be able to take, or they're flying. You need long range attacks, and you don't get to use intelligence with anything else but your special weapon. So you need to switch your special weapon to the infiltrator special weapon, right? Let's say that's the scenario. Okay, if you have two armor plans, and you probably should have one armor plan for like heavy armor, one armor plan for medium armor without disadvantage. So like a breastplate. So you've got a breastplate and some heavy armor. If you have two armor plans, then you can leverage your base class feature if you are level 6 to transmute the magic item. So you can transmute the armor plan that you created for your heavy armor with one magic action into the medium armor for infiltrator, and now you've switched with a single magic action to your other armor model, and then you can be using your ranged attacks now from your infiltrator mode right there. One action. You can do that once per day. So that's the fastest way to do it. The next fastest way to do it would be just just change your armor, right? Like you got to take the time. You can do the quick don and doff armor that you have, feature that you have for your arcane armor to take off the armor you're wearing that's arcane armor in one action. Now you wouldn't do this in combat because then you got to take 5 minutes or 5 minutes for medium armor or 10 minutes for heavy armor to put on a new suit of armor. And once you're wearing it, then you can use this magic action to switch it to the other armor type. So that's not, you can't do that in combat. I mean, you can. It would take 50 rounds or 100 rounds of combat to do that. So you can, but you shouldn't. But that's still a lot faster than taking a short rest to switch. Okay, so now you can switch with much less time. And that is the biggest gap I always had. The biggest issue I always had with the armor model is that it's the arcane armor, that they have all these cool options, but you don't have a good way to swap them, right? Like in the middle of combat is when you want to swap. Because the situation changes, you need ranged, or suddenly you started out ranged because you thought that was going to be better, but suddenly the party's in trouble and you need to start tanking to protect them, or you need the forced movement, push and pull of the dreadnoughts for some control functionality, or you just need more damage, right? The ability to just swap in the middle of combat is the thing that this always needed. Now it still takes a whole action, so you don't have your bonus action to swap in the middle of combat, but that's still a lot better than it was. Maybe if you have a generous DM, they can I don't know, let you take an attack as a bonus action or something like that, or maybe you have some bonus action and spell you can use that's useful. The Guardian armor model has a bonus action, the bonus action for the temporary hit points, the defensive shield. So whether you're going into the Guardian mode or going out of Guardian mode, you could use this before going out of Guardian mode, or use this right after you switch into Guardian mode to give yourself some temporary hit points if you are bloodied. So you got some options. And second, Deck of Wonder. Which is why I call this Wondrous Tactics, okay? We're going to do a Wondrous theme, even though the armor didn't fit the Wondrous. But hey, it's a stretch. All right. So Deck of Wonder, this is an uncommon item. It was introduced in the Book of Many Things, and you can make this at level 10. It's got a lot of buffs. And like 5 bad things it does to you. So, and the buffs mostly last 8 hours or until you start a long rest. So they last a long time. But this does work a lot like the Deck of Many Things in that you have to declare how many you're drawing. There's a 75% chance that this deck only has 13 cards and a 25% chance it has 22 cards. So, but the cards are not consumed like charges. Every time you draw a card and it takes effect, it immediately goes back into the deck. So it's not like you need to recreate this every day to reset the cards. It doesn't need that. They automatically reset. So you can just keep recreating this every day until you get the 22 card version, and then just keep that one every day after that. Then what you do is just declare to draw maybe the whole deck and get all the buffs, Now remember, the card immediately goes back in, so there's no like even if you draw 22, you're not guaranteed to get every card, right? Because you might draw the same card more than once, including the negative cards. But most of the negative cards are removed by a remove curse spell, okay? So the way you would want to do this is get yourself an enspelled item with remove curse, either the armor or the staff. Those can both have remove curse in them. You have to either find it, buy it, or craft it through magic item crafting because you can't make it with your replicate magic item. But get it some way. Now you've got 6 castings of remove curse, and then just draw, like I don't know, maybe 15 times so that you try to reduce the chances that you're going to get more than 6 curses. And then you just remove curse on the majority of the bad effects. The rest of the bad effects you can probably deal with. And then you have a bunch of buffs, and these buffs can be quite strong. Your hit point maximum increases for the next 8 hours. You get +1 to weapon attacks and damage rolls for the next 8 hours. You can cast the augury spell within 8 hours. You get resistance to a damage type for 1d12 days. You gain jewelry, 5 pieces of jewelry worth 100 gold pieces each. So that's 500 gold pieces. You learn the friends cantrip. Okay. For 8 hours, you have proficiency on your initiative rolls. You get +1 bonus to saving throws until you finish a long rest. I'm not going to keep going through all of them, but a lot of these are quite good. So this was a pretty cool idea that one of the viewers came up with, and I kind of like that, right? You're going to have to take a attunement slot for the enspelled item to cast remove curse on yourself, because those curses can be pretty bad. But this one doesn't take an attunement slot. So for one attunement slot, you get a lot. Like this is a lot of buffs that you can get, and then just remove the curses. So enjoy. Thanks to the viewer for that one. And the third tactic we're going over today, but not least, is you can create a mechanical wonder. This appeared in the 2 books we got for Heroes of Faerun. And there are 4 different magic items here under this one category. There's a common, there's 2 common, 1 uncommon, and 1 rare option, okay? So let's go over the common options first, which is a flying wonder. This one is common, which means you can create this at level 2 with a plan. It is basically like a flying drone. I guess it has hands. It can carry things, and even though it only has a strength score of 2 and tiny, which would mean it normally can only carry 15 pounds, it has this trait of increased carrying capacity. So it can actually carry 100 pounds. And it's got an interesting bonus action that is super circumstantial to give an advantage on the next ability check made with musical instruments or tinker tools. Okay. Or it can sprint as a bonus action, which is cool, but it still has actions. It just doesn't have any way to attack on its stat block. So much like the homunculus servant, you can give this thing a wand of magic missiles. You can give it caltrops and ball bearings and nets and things like that. Have it fly over enemies, dropping nets on them, dropping caltrops on them, shooting them with magic missiles. It only has 2 hit points, so it gets killed pretty easy. So but you can just recreate it every day as your replicate magic item, starting at level 2. So this you can get even sooner than homunculus servant, and you can have both this and a homunculus servant. So you got 2 things doing all of that, right? Throwing, using wand of magic missiles and throwing all those items, dropping acid flasks if you got an alchemy jug, throwing alchemist fire, all kinds of stuff, okay? All kinds of shenanigans. The other common level item you can make using this is called a mobility wonder. And this is like, for anybody who is kind of inherently slow, which the short races or short species in 2014 rules used to have a movement speed of 25. This would have boosted them to 30. Now they all have 30-foot movement speeds. But if for some reason your character has less than a 30-foot movement speed, this will boost their movement speed back up to 30. Or this might be something you put on a character who has, like you build a character who has a mobility impairment, because that's the fantasy you want to build with this character. Then you can have this item to compensate for that, and then your character is now fully functional, even though you're playing with the fantasy of having a mobility impairment. Okay. Also something you can do at level 2. All right, let's move up to the uncommon version, which would require level 10 for you to create this with a replicate magic item. But this one is like a walking clockwork creature. It's humanoid shaped, probably. It's not really specified, but it is a construct. It's medium sized. Its AC is terrible. Its hit points are only 5, so it's going to get destroyed pretty easily. It has this trait where unless it has like undead fortitude, like the zombies have, where it gets a Constitution saving throw every time it would drop to 0 hit points equal to DC 5 plus the damage taken. And if it succeeds, then it just drops to 1 hit point instead and doesn't die. And it can just keep doing that over and over and over again. So it might not be destroyed quite so easily, but if it's hit by lightning damage or a critical hit, it automatically fails that, or doesn't even get to make that roll, and it dies instead. So, but again, you can just recreate this every day. Um, and yeah, this is yet another creature you can have with yet more caltrops, more acid flasks, a net, a rope, chains, manacles, or just a wand of magic missiles. And this one is so squishy, I probably would give it the wand of magic missiles and have it stand as far back as it possibly can, just shooting off magic missiles. So now you'd have 3 creatures doing this, right? You got besides your PC. So you've got your homunculus servant, you got the domestic wonder, you got the flying wonder, and those 3 are all, even if you just give them wands of magic missiles, magic missile at level 1 does 10.5 points of damage. So all 3 of them, between the 3 of them, you're doing 31.5 points of damage with just these things, not even using your PC. That is a lot of DPR for your character, right? At level 10, you're doing this, which is 1 level before you get your spell storing item, which is now, it's just going to ramp up your damage or whatever you're doing even more. And you can give your spell storing item to one of these things too. Crazy. So that helps the Artificer a lot, okay? And like I said, it's really important to keep in mind that you can have all of these simultaneously. You don't have to choose between the homunculus servant and these things. And that is something that I think the Artificer needs, especially levels 1 to 10, before they get their spell storing item, when the Artificer is going to feel weak compared to a lot of other classes. Some of the subclasses are okay for Artificer. All right, and the final wonder that you can make, this is rare, so you have to be level 14 to make this, but you make a gyrocopter, which is like a helicopter, can carry 2,000 pounds of cargo, which means it can be carrying humanoids that weigh on average 250 pounds each, up to 8 of them. And it has like these spectral cords that help keep them in place so that they don't fall out, but also they can just jump out. And these cords allow them to slowly float to the ground. So you can have so it's kind of like the military helicopter flying overhead and the 8 soldiers deploying from it, slowly gliding to the ground, attacking from the air until they reach the ground. And they glide, so they actually move horizontally too. So they can be all moving away from the gyrocopter, and the cord extends up to 500 feet from the gyrocopter. So for 500 feet, they can be gliding and floating away from the gyrocopter as they're deploying in the middle of combat. This thing isn't particularly strong, like if it can get destroyed, but again, if you make it with your replicate magic item, you just recreate it the next day. So every day you can have one of these. And it's a flying speed, no concentration. It's a huge object, so it doesn't fit inside dungeons, but if you're not inside of a dungeon, you got your gyrocopter. You can have the whole party flying, no problem, nobody's spending concentration. Pretty cool. All right, so very fun for artificers, and yeah, just some extra ways. Like the Artificer really benefits from creativity, leveraging all of these replicate magic items. It's just a little bit of extra homework to figure them all out and put them together. But once you do, Artificers are quite good. And that's all I got today. So if you don't have enough D&D in your life, you can find me on Discord. The link's in the description, or you can find me on Start Playing Games. There's a link to the Google Drive to download any of the resources. And remember to be cool with when you're playing D&D, because these people are your friends or could become your friends, right? So, and it's a game. It's for fun. Okay. But thanks for watching. Catch you next time.